ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ Singh Army podcast free Jaggi now. Today we have Gurpreet Singh with us who's going to be telling us about Jaggi and the whole family's ordeal from the start, all the trials and tribulations that they have been through in this very unjust Indian system. Baji ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ.
Baji, can you just start off by telling us a little bit about what we're seeing today as it's Jaggi's birthday, the hashtag Free Jaggi Now? Tell us a little bit about what it's all about, your involvement, your relation to Jaggi, and basically just all those listeners today that might not know the story, who haven't heard, just bring everyone up to date with currently what's going on today.
Okay, so for many of you that have not heard who Jaggi is, Jaggi went to India in October 2017 to get married. On 18th of October 2017, Jaggi got married and he decided, instead of coming back to the UK on the 1st of November 2017, to spend further time with his wife and do her visa application. So he stayed back. On the 4th of November, after Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab in 2017, Jaggi was on his way to shopping with his wife when he was taken out of a car, put a hood over his head and bungled into a van. At that time, Jaggi's wife phoned me whilst I was in the UK. The world just shook beyond our feet because we thought Jaggi had been abducted because he's just newly married, British national, shopping with his wife, and people think that, oh, he's got money and we've abducted him to try and get some ransom. Straight away, that panicked me. I started phoning the UK government here in London to see what we could do. Jaggi's wife was in stitches and she was like, Paji, tusi the aajo, please come, please come. Without thinking, I spent the full day trying to get the UK government to find out where he was. We got messed about. Jaggi's wife and the family members in India were sent from one place to another place. He's meant to be in one police station. He wasn't there. Then come to court the next day. So it was just a nightmare. Something that was so joyful. We were just watching Jaggi's face, smiling at his wedding. Jaggi messing about with my kids at the wedding, and for all of a sudden to be known that a black bag was put over his head and he was bungled into a van. So this is what happened at the start. It then came about, I travelled to India, and on the 7th of November 2017, Captain Amrinder Singh.
7th of November 2017. So today, how long has he been in police custody?
He's been in police custody for 1,194 days as of today on his birthday. He was in interrogation by Punjab police, then the NIA, then he was taken to Nabha jail. From Nabha jail, he's been taken to Tahar jail and he's currently in Tahar jail. But what Jaggi has endured, and this is what's connected a lot of people, is Jaggi was tortured. British national, tortured by Punjab police. Yeah, it's true. In the 21st century, that a British national can be tortured. It wasn't just a chapair or a slaps here and there. It was third-degree torture to the extent his private parts were electrocuted. He was stripped naked. He had his legs pulled apart, had a petrol cannon in front of him and said that we're going to burn you alive. And also at one point, he had a gun put to his head to say that this is what's going to happen to you. He's often kept in the dark so that he experienced at any time the door could open, and that could be the last time the door opened. What's coinciding with this is what Jaggi used to do in the UK. Many know of Jaggi's work, but they didn't know who was behind it. And the work that people know about is Never Forget 84. We've seen the pictures, we've seen the Jeevaniya written about, Singhs and Singhniya that were made Shaheed by the Indian state. And this is who Jaggi was. And not many people knew that Jaggi had done a lot of the seva behind closed doors in order to let our community and people know about the human rights violations. This is what the police had said to Jaggi was, ਅੱਗੇ ਤੂੰ ਲਿਖਦਾ ਸੀ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਦਾ ਨਾਲ, ਕੌਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਦਿਖਾਉਣ ਡਏ ਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ. Jaggi hasn't been tortured to the extent those things in Singnia were, but one can only believe somebody that documented, researched, would know the extent that Punjab police can go to.
That's,
And that's what happened.
That is, it's so hard to listen to that. It's so, emotionally tough. It's left me, it's very, very hard to listen to that. But where would you say that his interest, or where would you say that this started? So how old would Jaggi have been today? How old is Jaggi today? I beg your pardon.
34 years old.
34 years old. And at what age? Tell us a little bit about Jaggi growing up. What was his personality like? What was he like at school? What job was he in?
So Jaggi loved cricket. He's a diehard Arsenal supporter. Even though we're from Scotland, he would also always support Arsenal. He went to a local football match here in the Champions League, which was Arsenal against Celtic, and he was in the Celtic's director box. But when Arsenal scored, he jumped up in joy inside the director's box. And my youngest brother was with him and said, you might want to calm down, because everybody in the director's box looked at him and he just shyly, and he went, yes, goal. That's the kind of person he was. He wasn't shy in terms of that, because that's the team he supported.
Yeah.
To the extent that he paid money to watch the Arsenal and Celtic game within the Celtic's director box. That just tells you all it was. That's when we could get the tickets. At school, he's been a very smart kid. I'm not shy to say this. He's smarter than me. He gave up his education because I was studying at university and we had a family businesses at the time. In my first year of university, first semester, our mum passed away. So Jaggi and my younger brother gave up their education so that I could go on and fulfill my mum's dream. So this is the extent of what Jaggi is like as a family member. Jaggi had also done well with his Punjabi, GCSE, A-levels, to the extent that I used to get him to do my Punjabi homework because I couldn't do it and he used to do it for me.
Wow. And what age was that?
Jaggi is a couple of years younger than me, so this was 10, 15 years ago that he would do the work. But Jaggi always liked to research. He always liked to study. And I always remember what Jaggi always says is, power is knowledge and knowledge is power. Because if you have knowledge, you can have a debate, you can speak to people. And if you don't, then people always feel superior that they know more than you. So always learn about you at the house and learn about your things and singing and learn about Sikhi in general as well. Even although I'm saying this, Jaggi didn't keep his case at the time. And this is Maharaj's Kirpa now, after being tortured, that he's kept his case.
Wow.
So Jaggi was working within the Indian takeaways, Indian restaurants with my dad. He started cooking, so he was like a chef. He would make the food, the curries. Jaggi did like to sleep in, so working in takeaways and restaurants worked for him because he wouldn't start work till 3 o'clock, and which meant that he could stay about till later that time, which allowed him to sleep late, wake up late, and still do the work that had to be done. Between that time, he always spent time studying, reading, and he also looked at different singing.
So as you've said, Bobby, which is Jaggi's wife, what's her name?
Gurpreet Kaur.
And you've told us how much of any wife who's been married for 14 days and then to not have contact with her husband again for what's been, you know, coming up to 3 years, is over 3 years, is very, very difficult. She's had her own problems and her own issues and her own kind of mini trial, if you like. Tell us a little bit about that and about her safety and staying here in the UK.
So just like what you said, Jaggi's wife met him for the first time after the wedding, after 3 months. Now you can just imagine, like as a Bollywood film or something, that
Mm.
Jaggi's wife went to see him in a jail, newly married, seeing her husband after 14 days of marriage in a jail, and how that atmosphere would have been at that time. So it's been heartbreaking for her. Jaggi's wife came to the UK. We submitted a further application for to stay in the UK. The Home Office refused it. We appealed the decision and we won the appeal. And then the Home Office have appealed that again. So it's been a nightmare for her, Bijari, as well, because she's here and she's safe. She's had to go through a lot of heartache, a lot of moving about houses in the early days. And now at least she's safe and she's basically playing the role a Jaggi would play to the kids, trying to make up for Chacha not being here just now. And the kids keep her occupied, they mess about with her. So it's like having her in the home is better here than being back in India because we believe that she'll be in more issues back in India.
And when have you tried to go and visit Juggy? Has his wife tried? Has your dad tried? How has that gone from the start? Tell us what that process has been like.
So Jaggi's wife last met Jaggi in April 2019 before she came to the UK. Since he's been in Delhi, that's why Jaggi's wife, we made an application for her to stay because it's too much Delhi and it'll be more pressure from the Indian state. None of us have been to see Jaggi. And since he's been in Delhi, Jaggi's not been allowed to have any contact with any family member other than blood relatives. And the Indian state knows that Jaggi's brothers, his dad is here, his wife is here, and they won't let him meet his father-in-law, even Mamasi or anyone there. So it's quite hard. Jaggi's had no family meeting since April 2019. So that's a long time with no family
And, is,
meeting.
and when you say that we haven't been able to see him, is that through your choice or is that you've been denied access?
So no family member in India because all the blood relatives are here. And the problem is, as I've been running the Free Jaggi Now campaign, the family fear that if I went to India, if they detained me, then they'd be looking to get two people released as opposed to just one. And so that's why they won't let me go. And obviously I want to go and see my brother because I've had 4 conversations with him, which is that's all he's been allowed to make from India is 4 calls from jail, and they've been very quick. But the message to the Sangat and everyone listening has been the Ardasa that we've been doing has kept him in Chardi Kala. He is mentally tortured because of the delays, but the Sangat is keeping him going. And the Ardasa, to the extent when the Sangat wrote chittiya to him, they sent some food to him. Some of it got to him because the prisoners gave it to him. The other stuff, like the good stuff out of it, they ate themselves, so he didn't get it. But he did get some of the items that the Sangat sent from UK and worldwide to him.
And what's what's the barrister or that equivalent, his legal representative? What's his views? And tell us before this occurred, throughout Juggi's childhood or his 20s, had he ever been in any kind of trouble with the authorities here in the UK at all?
No, Jaggi had never been in trouble with the authorities. Actually, sorry, he had once because him and my younger brother had went out of school and they were trespassing, playing on a football ground, which they shouldn't have. and one of my brother's friends, youngest brother's friends, had basically started abusing the police, and Jaggi and my younger brother were brought home. And that's what kids do. If that, but other than that, he'd never been in trouble.
Of course.
And
And
even
how old was he then?
14 years old.
Yeah. So
14.
that's just kids being kids. And when he was initially arrested, were you told what he was arrested for?
No, we thought he's abducted. Our position is he was abducted because he hadn't been arrested formally. The way they took him was an abduction and not within the law itself. So Jaggi never knew anything. Even now, Jaggi says to the British High Commission, they don't charge me. They don't tell me what evidence is against me. They just keep making delay after delay.
So
It wasn't.
is he currently on charges? On what charges is he currently on at the moment?
Jaggi has 9 cases against him. One is just brought in 2021. One case he has charges of funding, and 8 cases he has no charges at all. So the Indian state just keep delaying those cases.
And what
The serious cases, there's no charges on Jaggi after 3 years.
and what are they saying in regards to a due process, a fair trial, any dates, any has he had any pre-trial hearings? What's going on with the process then of going to trial and clearing his name?
So the one trial that is ongoing, the investigating officer has confirmed that there's no evidence against Jaggi. There's no supporting or any incriminating documents or anything found against him. The other cases, he's had 147 preliminary hearings,
How
which
many? Sorry, how many?
147,
Wow.
and nothing has happened in any of them. Instead, the state keep delaying things. They don't give the defense the documents that are required. The prosecution are saying we have enough evidence. But what I'm going to say at this part is when Punjab police had the case, they had said openly to the Vakil, Maria Sap Sade Gal To Lata Te NIA Te Pe Gaya. What that means is we had a dead snake around our neck with Jaggi's case because we have no evidence, no proof against him, and we've tortured him. Now we've cleaned our hands, and now this is gone to the NIA. That's the kind of extent. NIA is a National Investigation Agency who deliberately do these things to make it worse than it is. I'll give you an example. Today's the farmers issue that everybody knows about sees the NIA cases, and these are coming in for peaceful protesting. We've seen Greta Thunberg, who's an FIR has been made against her. Rihanna's had allegations against her. Kamala Harris's niece has had allegations against her. That's the way India plays this propaganda. They tried to play it with us. And our position has been simple, is Jaggi's human rights have been violated. But to listeners listening, this isn't new to us. From 1947 onwards, 1984, and even in the 21st century, Jaggi di ਇੱਕ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਵੀ ਆਈ ਸੀ July 2018, speaking to a reporter, ਇੱਥੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੀ ਇਨਸਾਫ ਆ? And we are seeing that even with the farmers' protest. Even though the farmers' protest is about all farmers, who's leading it? Who is the one that's being labelled as terrorists? Even though ਆਪਣੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਭਰਾ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ with people from Haryana, from all over India, protesting with the farmers' issues. So we can see the propaganda India plays. Even the most recent propaganda, which is Rihanna tweets, why are we not talking about this? And then you've got the Chamchi, Ajay Devgan, Sunny Deol, you've got Akshay Kumar, all using straight propaganda against what all the person said is, why are we not talking about this? There's millions of farmers protesting peacefully.
And not to mention, they hadn't actually commented on it up until other people have commented. So they hadn't commented originally. Then once Rihanna and Greta and these other people commented, that's when they feel, okay, now we should comment because other people are commenting. So if they really did feel passionately about it, surely they would have, prior to that, Now, I'm just going to read I've been loosely looking at some of the Facebook pages and the social media. Now, I'm going to just read a comment that somebody's put here, and just tell me if you think this is true or false. Just once in Khalra tried to put a name to all of the dead bodies of the young Sikhs in the 1980s and early 1990s. Jaggi Johal carried on that seva, and he just tried to add a picture to these dead bodies and these names. And for that, he's been treated very, very badly by the judicial system, by the police, and by the whole establishment of India, because they want to suppress anything that will link them to any sort of human rights abuses. Now, that's just something off one of the social media pages I've read. Would you say that is true, or would you say that is false?
That's true. By just once in Canada, as everybody knows, is an inspiration to any human rights activist, whether he's a Sikh, whether he's a Muslim, or anyone, with what Bhai Sahib Seva was. And we are just trying to be that can do. And Jaggi was trying to be that can do for those mothers who didn't see their children's faces. A quick one on this would be Bhai Rasal Singh came to Glasgow to do a program in the Glasgow Gurdwara. Jaggi had found a photo of Bhai Rasal Singh's dad. And Bhai Rasal Singh, everybody knows. And see the brightness on Bhai Rasal Singh's face that day was unbelievable. When Jaggi presented this photo of Bhai Rasal Singh's dad in a frame. That's the kind of extent. And think about it, that's Bhai Rasal Singh who had some memories of his father. And we all know of the prachar that Bhai Rasal Singh's dad did. But think about those mothers that didn't have any pictures of their children. Think about those mothers that got to see a picture of their child. That's what Jaggi was doing. That's why he was researching and getting this information. And a lot of people have connected to Jaggi because of, by Khalada's work. Jaggi went on and carried it on. Most of these photos we see of the Singhs and Singhania with Never Forget 84 through it. Now people actually know who was behind it. And when people post these photos, as you know, and the listeners know, June 1984, everybody becomes vocal about Harmandir Sahib attack.
You've told us, sorry to just interrupt you there, but you've told us about Bhai Rasal Singh, and those listeners who want to hear more, and they might want to go into the history and the story of that. He was a Daddi or Kavishri, and just tell the listeners what his story was and what happened to him.
So please, if I'm wrong, please do correct me and please do forgive me. My understanding was Bhai Rasal Singh's dad was a Kavishri in 1980s that was singing Tadiwara. And when the police stopped him from Tadiwara, because he was going from Pind to Pind, telling about the atrocities that were taking place, and he was told to basically shut up, and he didn't. And I might be wrong, but I think this is correct. His tongue was cut off, but that hadn't stopped him, even though he knew this was going to happen, and he was made shaheed by the Punjab police. That's the kind of extent he and his son has went on to continue on as a Tadiwar and doing prachar throughout the UK and all over the UK with that as well. He hasn't stopped.
And that is by Nirmal Singh, and that's his son who Jaggi had provided a picture of, and he's done that for many, many, many families, and families who are eternally grateful just having because back in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of pictures around of families and especially the youth and things like that, because the technology wasn't there. So Jaggi managed to, the few bits and pieces, collate and give back to the family. And it's an amazing, amazing, amazing story. It's got a long way to go yet, I believe. It's got a lot of hard work from everyone, and to all the listeners, to the whole Sikh community, to any human rights activists from whichever community in the world. Today is Jaggi's birthday. He's been incarcerated for over 3 years now. What is your message to everyone today and going forward?
So first message is that Ardas Jidda Kardeya Sangat Ardasa is required. The awareness that's being raised by the Naujwans for Jaggi is what's going to get him back. We've recently seen a lot of media attention because of the death penalty that Jaggi might be facing as a result of the allegations made against him. And please learn about your Itihas, because Jaggi would want that. Through Jaggi's incarceration, a lot of people have started to learn about it. Start with the Char Sahibzade, the Shahidiya our Gurus have given for us, and keep that voice vocal, because Sikhs are there for standing up against injustices. And support the Free Jaggi Now campaign. Support your brother Gurpreet as well, because without you guys, I can't do anything. I need your support, your adasa to keep this going. And we will get Jaggi back home. Don't be silent. If you want to get involved with the Free Jaggi Now campaign, you can reach us on social media, on the Free Jaggi Now Twitter, Instagram, or the Facebook page, and be a part of this, because it is something that we do not want to happen to anybody else. It'll be a good birthday gift for Jaggi as well, today being his birthday. People talking about him on his birthday and knowing that he's not forgotten, sitting in the hard jail, the highest security jail. That's all I can ask for. And I can only say thank you to Singarbi Podcast for giving me this opportunity to speak to the Sangat and be Jaggi's voice on his birthday.
Gurpreet Singh, we thank you from the bottom of our heart, and you're an inspiration to all of us carrying on this battle and never giving up on your brother, never giving up on a fellow Singh, and, you know, fighting for generations to come. You're setting precedents. So all we want to say is you will be in our prayers, and whenever the opportunity does arise to speak to Jaggi, please give him our well wishes. And I'm sure we speak on behalf of all the Sangat from the UK is, you know, we just want our brother home. So a big thank you from all of us. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.